some people are called quad dominant, and really they might be quad dominant, but in actuality they don't have any idea of what their strategy is. They just do a movement, and all they're going by is whether or not they completed the rep. This is not necessarily a problem until it becomes a problem. Let's say you have pain somewhere that just doesn't seem to go away, or it comes back, or you're having leakage, urinary leakage, or some other issue related to your pelvic health or just general core function that you can't quite seem to shake. In my last video, I talked about movement faults related to the knee that lead to pelvic floor symptoms. And one was that, and in that video I talked about this topic exactly, that people are called quad dominant, but they don't even really know how to truly isolate their quads. My name is Dr. Jocelyn Conley. I'm a pelvic floor physical therapist, founder of the Vagina Doc, and in this video I am going to share with you some of my favorite isolation and compound exercises to learn how to intentionally focus on your quads. We're gonna cover 6 different exercises, but I promise it'll go quickly so that you can get started and try these exercises. The first exercise we're gonna cover is basically a seated knee extension. What you'll need when you do this is somewhere to sit where your legs can dangle a little bit. If you can't dangle, that's okay. You could still pull this one off. All right, so find a chair that you could sit. Now, I'm not really dangling my legs, so I'm scooting back so that my leg isn't too squashed to the floor. What I'm gonna do is I'm going to slowly straighten my leg, squeezing my front thigh muscle as I do that, gently, and then I'm gonna control it down. As I do that, I shouldn't lift my hip or do anything funky up here. And I'm trying to keep my foot relaxed as well so I can focus on just the quad. As I do this, I want to make sure my kneecap is tight, like it's not just floating around at the end, and that I can feel my muscles working in the front. That is the first one. Now this exercise typically does not build strength, it just builds awareness. You could lay down, or you could be upright like I am now. And what you're gonna do, you're gonna squeeze your quad here and lift your leg up about 3 to 6 inches. So here's the laying down version. Squeeze this muscle. Try to keep the back of your leg as relaxed as you can. As you squeeze your muscle, feel this in your quad. Slowly lift your leg. Hold for a second and then come back down. You should feel this more just here versus just all in your hip. If you feel it in your back, then there's probably some weakness or some coordination recruitment issue going on in your core, that you are not creating a stable base for your quads to work from. Because one of your quads attached to the front of your pelvis, and when the pelvis isn't stable, it can tip forward, and that would also arch your lower back. So if that's the case, try to find someone that can teach you how to effectively help you get to an optimal core engagement, or check out some of my other videos on that. The next exercise is a single leg balance. I have talked about this in other videos. This is specific to train your quad. So when you're standing and when you're playing sports or doing certain exercises, the quads and the hamstrings provide really important stabilization to the knee. When there's an imbalance between the two, or they're just weak, then it puts you at risk for injuries to the knee, such as ACL injuries and others. So focus on your quad this time, and if you know how I've taught you in other videos, try not to focus on that as much. You're gonna be standing up, and your focus is to squeeze your quad and balance. This is not you want to look out for this. I see this all the time. Squeeze your quad, keep your leg straight. Now, if you also notice yourself doing some of the other things I taught you, like the big toe, the heel, the glute, that's fine, but make sure your quad is squeezed and not squeezed. As you practice, you'll have more, I guess, control over the intensity of your squeeze. So at first, if it's really tight, whatever, but eventually you really only want to squeeze as much as you need to. The next exercise is a leg press. Now, obviously, I'm at home by the pool and I don't have a machine to show you this, but I'm going to show you a variation with a resistance band. You can do this with a tube without handles or with handles. And there's a bunch of variations that you can do. I'm going to show you the lying down variation. So what I do is I'm going to put my feet in the handles. And I'm going to hold the handles like this. My knee starts bent and I slowly straighten my legs, squeezing my quad as I do that, and then controlling it back. Now, as I do this, notice my hip is also moving. That's fine. This is a little bit more of a compound exercise, but I don't want to snap back. The way you really focus on your quads is the speed. As your knee goes into extension and then back into flexion, make sure it doesn't turn in or it's not doing anything weird. You want the same trajectory, out and then in, targeting the front of your thigh. The next two exercises are more compound exercises, but the way you execute them can bias the quads. First one is the front squat. Now, you have a couple options of what you can use with the front squat. It can just be body weight, where basically you're sitting your hips down and back, and then you're standing upright. To bias your quads, you may be able to just do it without making any adjustment to how you were squatting. That's going to depend on your body shape, overall how long your legs are and so on related to your torso, or just focusing on your quads. Just like you're sitting your hips down and back and you want to feel yourself loading here, squeezing your quads as you stand up. Or you can put something under your feet or use shoes that have a little bit higher of a heel so that you're inclined as you squat. Doing that just loads the quads more so that you are biasing the quads. The other option is where you place your weight. So if I have my kettlebell in front of me and I'm squatting, that's considered more of a front-loaded squat than if I'm doing a back squat. So your other option is just to hold weight in front of you. That could be a barbell, that could be a dumbbell, that could be a kettlebell, it could be a med ball, it could be anything. Front-loaded squat, bias the quads. You can adjust how high your heels are relative to the front of your foot to help with that as well. The last exercise is a lunge. Again, it's a compound exercise, but how you're doing it can bias your quads. I can do it just by focusing, but I'm also working my glutes and that's fine. But if I'm more in a hip hinge position, I'm going to be using my glutes more. But if my torso is more upright, even if I'm in neutral, knees out and I'm going down and I'm standing up like this, I do feel it in my glutes, but man, do I feel it in my quads a lot. Same thing with how you load the squat or the lunge. If I have loading in the front, that helps. Versus if I put a barbell on my back and I tip from my hip a little bit more so that my chest is forward a little bit more, I'm going to load my glutes a bit more. So in summary, we covered some of my favorite exercises that help you connect with your quads more. In the beginning, I covered isolation exercises. It was just the knee extension, which you might do just to connect with them. You might do it on a machine. covered the straight leg raise that you could do just to connect or to actually strengthen part of your quads. Once you get it, I would move on to better things if you can. And then after that, we covered the single leg balance, the leg press, the squat, and the lunge. If you have any questions, post them in the comments. If you like this video, please press the like button. Know anyone that can benefit from it, send it to them, share it, and then don't forget to subscribe so you're notified every time a new video is dropped.